Welcome, everybody. How often do we answer the question, how are you? With fine, pretty good. You? Life may indeed be fine, even pretty good. But when Jupiter comes around, it unsettles the places where we've quietly resigned ourselves to fine and ask, in Stephen Forrest's words, where am I underestimating myself? Where do I need to bet big on myself? Where do I need a victory? Jupiter restores our appetite for life, wide open horizons, hearty laughter, an abundant table with family and friends, and above all, leaps of faith. It invites us to risk hope again. It invites us to trust our heart's deepest longings as a compass and move toward possibility before certainty arrives. Jupiter doesn't simply ask, what can I get? It asks us to break free of the spell of fine, pretty good, and consider what becomes possible when I stop underestimating my life and myself. My dear friends and fellow Toastmasters, that's the question that we'll be looking at today in our Kepler Astrologers Toastmasters panel. This is a panel about Jupiter in Leo. Welcome. Kepler Astrologers Toastmasters, or CAT as we call it lovingly, is a community where astrologers develop and strengthen their speaking and leadership skills, enhance their individual voices, and learn from one another in a supportive community through practice and constructive feedback. In fact, this is our 5th house perfection year. We've been around for 4 years and we're just entering our 5th year. And we have a very, very special announcement from our former president, Sula Porter.
Thank you, Magna. What's exciting about this year is that we are just on the heels of having been awarded the Club of the Year for District 100 Toastmasters. And everyone is just so wonderful to be able to celebrate that. And we hope that this tells you what a great group we have here.
Indeed, we do have an incredible group here. And we also have our incoming year president, Brandon Hansen, here as well. And he's going to be the helms person of our CAT ship this year. So what you'll get to hear from today is everybody in this panel is a Kepler Astrologer Toastmaster, or CAT. And they're also astrologers who represent traditional, psychological, evolutionary, historic, mythic, and personal perspectives about how Jupiter in Leo may awaken, expand, and ask each of us through the 12 houses to actualize our deepest longings and highest potentials. Before we dive into Jupiter's transit through the houses, let's take a closer look at Jupiter, the sign of Leo, and what happens when Jupiter enters Leo. Jupiter invites us to stop underestimating ourselves, to risk hoping for what we truly want. I'd like to invite Sinem, all the way from Turkey, to tell us, what do you want most for people to understand about Jupiter and the energy of Jupiter itself?
In mythology, Jupiter is Zeus, king of the gods. In astrology, however, his power is not only about authority or abundance. Jupiter represents wisdom, justice, faith, generosity, and the search for meaning. It reminds us that true growth is not measured simply by having more, but by understanding more. He expands whatever he touches, but expansion alone is not necessarily beneficial. What matters is whether growth is guided by judgment and purpose. As we follow Jupiter through the 12 houses, we will see the setting change, but not the central question. What here is worthy of becoming greater?
Fascinating and really important take there. We understand Jupiter's more, but it's not just about expanding more of anything. It's about understanding more and choosing from a more wise place. That's why in India, we call Jupiter Guru. So now let's turn to the sign of Leo. That's this place where Jupiter is going to hang out for the next year. Brandon, will you tell us a little bit more about just the sign of Leo and what that means?
Of course. Thank you, Magna. Leo is interesting as the only sign in the zodiac that is ruled by the sun. So all the things that we can contemplate about this very significant celestial body are present in the sign. and its qualities of fixity and fire are such a perfect pairing with its ruler. So, of course, when we think about a Leo, we might think about someone who's not afraid of shining. We think of someone who has a radiant glow, like a performer or a child. And with that fixed combined with the fire, you can think of someone who is very passionate and whose passion drives them and inspires others. Being the center of the solar system and the gravity that holds the planets in orbit, we can also think of Leo as an authority figure, an inspiring leader, like a king or a president. But often under-discussed is that Leo is perhaps the most consistent of all the signs, maybe even more so than Taurus, because the sun is the most consistent body in the solar system. Always moving at a very consistent speed, always moving forward, and helping us organize time through how it moves through the sky over the course of each day. And additionally, as Sinem just said about Jupiter, Leo is very generous because the sun is self-sustaining, fueled from within, and endlessly giving of its excess to others.
Indeed. It is something that we forget how much the sun gives to us every single day. Thank you for bringing that fixed fire, passionate energy of Leo to our stage here. And I like to use the word stage because we're talking about Leo. Now let's bring Jupiter and put Jupiter into Leo together. And I'd like to invite Courtney, who has a beautiful big sun behind her. Courtney, tell us a little bit more about what it would be like to have Jupiter in Leo.
Thank you. We just saw a beautiful example from both Brandon and Sinem of being generous, of two beautiful people being generous. And Leo wants you to create, and Jupiter wants to give you opportunity. So I think it's happiness in your life and seeing the light in you. Simply smiling and letting people know that you're there, letting people see your generosity. Everybody's light matters, right? It takes tremendous vulnerability to be your light, though. So be your light, be happy, and share it with everybody. The sun doesn't question who it's sharing with it. And other people don't need to understand you, and everyone might not celebrate you, but that's okay. Seriously, don't take it personally. Just allow yourself to be your light, to be bright, and to live from your heart. Because when you have fun, and you are fun, and you're smiling, and you're light, and you could play, and you could be willing to be embarrassed, it will help you grow and will allow yourself to let other people grow and love you. Seriously, let yourself be loved. The sun doesn't ask for permission to shine, neither should you. So this is a beautiful, magical moment to create your life. And I'll say, when you give yourself permission to shine, like Marianne Williamson says, you give other people permission to shine. So shine your light. We need to see your light.
Thank you so much, Courtney. I always feel like Courtney's like the resident cheerleader, and talk about Leo embodied right there. Thank you, Courtney. Let's invite Christina. What's your take on Jupiter and Leo?
Thanks, Meghna. Those are a lot of great thoughts already. So I'm going to wrap this together as best as I can and say that in a nutshell, Leo wants visibility, and Jupiter insists that that visibility be earned through wisdom and generosity and expansion. So that offers us a couple of core questions for this transit. One is, what kind of leader, teacher, or creator inspires others by the radiance of their character? And then another one is, what makes someone worthy of the throne? So the answers I think that we arrive at get at the heart of greatness or leadership as a product of mastering and sharing power rather than merely possessing it.
Oh, what makes someone worthy of the throne? And really, we're asking that question to ourselves. And the throne that we are being asked to sit on is the throne of our own lives, right? To be the sovereign of our own lives. What a great way to wrap that part up. Thank you, Christina. So now what I'd like to do is we're going to get into the meat of this thing, as I would like to say, except that I'm a vegetarian and I don't do meat. So the protein The protein part of this is the Jupiter through the houses. And each one of our wonderful astrologers here has presenting a take on Jupiter through each of the houses. To begin with, I'd like to invite Norma Jean Ream, all the way from the Aloha state of Hawaii. She'll be taking us through the first house. Norma Jean has studied astrology for over 55 years. That's a long time. Her Kepler studies included the cross-cultural exploration of Western and Vedic systems, as well as classical and Hellenistic systems of astrology. I guess you need 55 years to do all those different disciplines, Norma Jean. Tell us what you have discovered about Jupiter's transit through Leo and what our listeners can expect for this transit if they have Leo rising.
What happens when the planet of abundance and expansion meets the boldest, most radiant sign of the zodiac right in the house of self? Aloha, I'm Norma Jean. Today, let's examine Jupiter in Leo in the first house. Let's start with Jupiter itself. In astrology, Jupiter is the great benefic, the planet of expansion, abundance, luck, wisdom, and growth. Where Jupiter sits in your chart is where life invites you to grow the biggest and where blessings tend to flow. Just remember that Jupiter amplifies whatever it touches, so it magnifies the good and asks us to stay balanced. Now the sign. Leo is the lion, ruled by the sun, and it is all about self-expression, creativity, leadership, confidence, and a generous, big-hearted warmth with a flair for drama and a touch of royalty. At its heart, Leo's message is simple. I was born to shine. Here's where it all lands, the first house, the house of self. This is your identity, your appearance, and how the world first sees you. It is your rising sign house, the face that you lead with, and over time who you become. A Jupiter transit here is a once-in-12-year opening, a rare window for growth and bold self-expression. Putting it all together, and a picture emerges. You carry a larger-than-life presence, and people notice you when you walk in. You're a natural leader and performer. Your charisma is genuine. You are warm and generous. Luck flows through bold self-expression. Your creative gifts are amplified, and you grow by stepping into the spotlight, not away from it. Every placement has two sides. The gifts here are magnetism, confidence, and inspiring leadership, with abundance that comes through visibility and authenticity. The things to watch for are ego inflation, or taking up too much space, overdoing it since Jupiter can go overboard, leaning too hard on outside validation. Owned consciously, the gifts far outweigh the challenges. So here are the takeaways. Jupiter in Leo in the first house is a gift to the world when you own it fully. Your presence is your superpower, so don't shrink from it. Share it generously and let yourself shine. Let's close by taking this in together. Say it with me. I expand through authentic self-expression. My light is my legacy. Carry that with you and have a wonderful Jupiter in Leo year.
Norma Jean, what a great way to frame presence itself as a gift. Oh my gosh. Not performing a larger than life self, but this is kind of tying back to Christina's question of what makes us deserving of the throne, our very presence. We don't have to do anything. We just have to fully be ourselves. I love that. You also named the essential balance, letting ourselves be seen without confusing visibility with entitlement. Very useful. Very useful. Thank you. I'd like to also invite you, Ishil, if you'd like to share a little bit about what you got from Norma Jean's video, or anything you'd like to share about the difference between authentic self-expression and simply taking up more space.
Yeah, thank you, Magna. One thought that stayed with me is that every placement carries both a gift and a challenge. Perhaps the real question is not whether Jupiter in Leo is fortunate or difficult, it's how consciously that fire is expressed. The same energy can inspire others or it can consume us. Maybe that's one of the most valuable reminders of astrology offers. Every placement invites a choice.
Choose wisely. Thank you, Ishil. Let's move now to the second house. For the second house and its polarity, the eighth, our scheduled panelists had unforeseen last-minute circumstances that prevented them from joining us. But that becomes a gift for all of us. So we've decided to give you a taste of what happens at a CAT meeting. One of our most beloved segments of the meeting is table topics, where members practice speaking spontaneously for up to 2 minutes. I'm going to invite several of our panelists to offer impromptu reflections on Jupiter in Leo, transiting the second house. We'll hear several perspectives, with each speaker keeping their response to 2 minutes or less. If you'd like to experience a CAT meeting yourself, you'll find a link below to attend as our guest. And viewers, we'd love to hear from you too. Share your perspective on any of the 12 houses below, or tell us where Jupiter in Leo is moving through your own chart in the comments section. Let's begin with Courtney, with the bright sun behind her. Courtney, as Jupiter transits through Leo in the second house, what do you believe it will invite for the people who have that?
Okay. So thank you so much. Jupiter and Leo in the second house. What it would invite for you is to know your value. How can anyone else know your value if you don't know your value? So here, you're supposed to be growing in your security of yourself. What do you need to feel secure? Be truthful about this. Jupiter wants you to be truthful, to examine how your relationships are showing up and how, like, are you uncomfortable receiving? I'll ask you that, because it's important to receive, not just to be a giver. So do your relationships and your income and your boundaries, are they reflecting this ability to know your value? You have to know you're valuable to have people appreciate you, to have the money received, right? Because it's the second house is the house of money. But it's not only about money, it's about what you value. So notice I also think it's where you're spending your money. So notice what you're spending your money on and noticing if it matches what you value. So what are you cultivating? What are you spending your money on? Think of what you do with your time, what ideas you have, what are your creativities? What do you have to share with others? I think Leo reminds us that it really takes courage to shine, but it takes confidence too. Oh my God. I always think about the queen with Jupiter, and the queen doesn't really ask for approval. She just has to shine. And if she asks for approval, maybe we wouldn't be so confident in her. So it's asking you to be vulnerable with your heart as well. So yes, you can make more money. Yes, you become more successful, but know your true worth comes first. Really. You have so many talents and you have so much brightness to share, and something about yourself can make money, right? Because it's Leo, right? Something about you. So, but I want you most of all to appreciate yourself and trust. This is really important. Trust that you have something to offer to the outer world, that you've studied, that you have something to share. So it's really about finding your confidence and your courage to believe in who you are, because you're worth it. So thank you so much for taking the time and the energy to be bright, to find your light, and to share your light with other people. And ask for what you want and what you need. Very important in the second house.
Indeed. Thank you. Great advice. Ask for what you want and need. How about you, Sue? How might Jupiter's transit to the second house change a person?
Second house is where spirit incarnates into matter. It's unfolding energy that holds resources. The natural house of Taurus represents the most earth sign. As it's fixed, land greatly appeals to the second house energies. With Jupiter transiting it, energies even get bigger, easily seem to be the best. The house represents our possessions that are movable. Importantly, it includes all our talents as resources beyond the material objects. We value what is in our second house, with security as a primary focus, to have the resources substantiate our existence, our life force. Ultimately, because Venus rules Taurus, the natural zodiac for the second house, values, purpose, and meaning hold emphasis. Jupiter in this house definitely can contribute to obtaining more objects or land, or be concerned with financial support. This can also include one's emotional attachments. This is important to realize. One's early childhood experiences and grow past pains, possibly, by taking time to care for yourself. Food matters hugely. Jupiter in Leo might introduce parties with different menus of other cultures. Taste is important. It's one of those senses. Jupiter in Leo might encourage a new business or expand one. Beautiful art, music matter tremendously. Beyond all, the senses touch every aspect of life. Sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch. One relishes the finer quality. Thus, gratitude is always the measure of success with second house. The gift to share one's abundance with the company of others and for those that might be of need. So enjoy your experience sharing and loving your second house.
Thank you so much, Sue. I am feeling loving towards my second house, but I didn't think about that emotional attachments piece ever before. So thank you for that insight. I'm going to have to think about that one. For the third house, and we'll move to there. Thank you very much for the table topics participants. I'd like to invite Sula Porter to share with us about the third house. Sula Porter, our former president of CAT for this past year, has been studying Hellenistic astrology with Adam Elenbaas at the Nightlight School of Astrology since 2020. With a background in information technology, Sula likes to study the history of innovations and their astrological correlations. She's our resident techie as well. Take it away, Sula.
As a student of Hellenistic astrology, I'll be sharing the ancient perspectives on the third house using the whole sound house system. I'll also share ideas on what Gemini rising natives might see when Jupiter shows up in their third house this year. Some modern astrologers have embraced a theory that relates houses to signs in zodiacal order, Aries for the first, Taurus for the second. It's important to note that in this talk, I'll be referring to the Hellenistic tradition, which differs from that. To the ancients, the third house was only considered to rule the sign of Gemini in charts that had Aries ascendant. In both modern and ancient traditions, however, the third house were considered topics such as siblings, neighbors, short trips, and communications. But why? Well, the astronomical context can help us understand how this came about. Ancient astrologers were able to map the planetary paths of the 5 wandering stars or planets with a naked eye against the backdrop of the constellations. Planets moved around the zodiac at different speeds in a counterclockwise direction, and on a day-to-day basis, these would be very slow. They did notice, however, the seasonal changes with the Earth's revolution. This is called secondary motion, and it moves again in a counterclockwise direction. A corollary to that, however, is that every day in primary motion, the Earth spins on its axis. Planets and stars appear to rise and fall from the east and set in the west along the path of the ecliptic as well. This is where house systems were derived. The flow of time is where things come to pass and pass away. From the Earth's northern hemisphere, when facing north, the night sky appears to rotate around Polaris. And depending on how far north you are, that's how far up you would have to look to see the pole star. Now, each angular house, the 1st, the 10th, the 7th, and the 4th, is flanked by 2 other houses that comprise an angular triad. The 4th house is the dark of night, the 1st, the sunrise, the 10th, high noon, and the 7th, the sunset. So as you can see, in the subterranean realm, the IC marks the darkest part of the solar day, and it's beginning where we start pivoting toward the light. The other angular houses also have flanking signs that support them. Time and light pivot on the angular houses. Planets located in these houses become more prominent. Succeeding houses 2, 11, 8, and 5 are building energies toward the next angle. Cadent houses 12, 9, 6, and 3 are falling away from the previous angle. The 3rd house is a cadent house, falling from the 4th. It's coming out of the place of parents, home, and ancestry. It's where we have our first encounters with others, including siblings, our extended family, and our neighbors. It's a busy house where we build habits that build one's lifestyle. In the ancient Indian yogic Purushakra system, the 3rd house represents your personal courage, willpower, and the initial motivation to act on your ambitions. It's about taking the first steps to make things happen. It's known as a Kama house, where one seeks pleasure. In the planetary joy system, it is the place where the moon rejoices. The day-to-day rhythms of life, patterns and habits one develops, places visited frequently and routinely. As Austin Coppock puts it, the 3rd house is just what's around. And I would argue that it's heavily influenced by current culture and media. In essence, what are we doing with our time now? Think about what were we doing in our time then. In the 1800s, the manifestations of the 3rd house will look very different from today. Short distance travel probably meant walking. Maybe a little bit further distance as we got into the 1900s. As we get into the 20s, you'll see more cars, and there takes on more meaning to short distance travel. When we get into more modern days with music and television and radio, a lot more things have moved into the culture. 2020 in particular was a very pivotal year. I mean, not just because of COVID, but because of social media and how it forced people to be experiencing day-to-day habits with going to their computers every day and connecting with people there instead of in real life. December 21st, 2020 was the first time we had the synodic conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And this marks a very pivotal time because for the next 200 years, the Saturn and Jupiter cycles will only take place in air signs, which means that digital routines may dominate daily life for many of us. And even look at how this is already starting to be manifest today. Video games, people spend hours in them, social media, phone trees, AI rabbit holes, virtual worlds, transportation innovations, podcasts. The idea of short distance travel is also into digital worlds, streaming services, the panopticon. All of these things are manifestations of air signs and how they are taking our time away. So the challenge will be to find the rituals and practice to stay human in a digital reality. Jupiter and Leo in the 3rd house is also going to have a really profound effect for Gemini rising folks because it will be transiting there. And because Leo is a kind of a sign of royalty and pride, maybe you'll get a visit of royalty, or maybe you're the royalty. Think about becoming the king of your own neighborhood. New pursuits of happiness, new know-it-all neighbors, or maybe they're just wise friends that you want to have more in your life, or maybe you're the wise friend. You may be a consumer or generator of information overload. You'll have enough fixed fire energy to attack tough problems, confidence to be your iconic self, develop some habits that you're proud of, Your siblings may have good fortune, so hopefully you've been kind to them. And you might feel a call to participate in local affairs. I mean, if you don't, who will? Maybe it's even time to get a vanity license plate. Third house matters. What will you do? So even if you don't have Gemini rising, think of where Jupiter will be in relation to your third house and work with the joy of the moon and choose your local adventure. The degree that one chooses to do whatever they do with their time is really how your third house will matter.
Hey, thank you, Sula. That was amazing. The third house brings Jupiter into our immediate world. Thank you for bringing the Jupiter-Saturn cycle in air into the room. We are absolutely grappling with how to navigate our humanity alongside the rapidly changing technology, which is your area. And I'll definitely be borrowing that wonderful, wonderful phrase, choose your local adventure. Thank you, Sula. Andrew, let's stay with the transit and open it out a little further. What else might you want someone to notice or experiment with while Jupiter moves through their third house?
In the style of astrology that I practice, Jupiter is one of the triplicity rulers of Leo. And one of the things that I think Sula brought attention to is that this is a sign and house where Jupiter is expected to do work. As a result, figuring out what causes or what issues in your neighborhood or in your community or in your friends group you want to address and putting in the labor on that particular issue or cause is really important. We haven't really talked about on this channel, but the South Node is going to be moving through Leo. And if you don't get involved in local affairs or in creating leadership roles for yourself in your community, chances are you're going to be caught out and unpleasantly surprised by stuff that happens in your community or in your friends group, unless you take on leadership roles. So your choice is get involved or be disappointed with the results. And I think that that's a great way of approaching this, that you need to get involved because otherwise you're not going to like what happens. So devote your time and energy, volunteer in your community, figure out where you can best use your talents and expertise to deliver quality results to yourself, or be prepared to live with the disappointment. I think that's what I've got to say, but Sula said so much that was so valuable, and thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for cracking the whip on everybody with the third house in Leo. And we are going to actually discuss the South Node and then the nodal shift that's going to happen into Aquarius Leo at the end of the panel. So stay tuned for that. In fact, Andrew's going to be one of the people who will tell us about it. Now let's move to the fourth house with Christina Montsma. Christina Montsma is an astrologer and interdisciplinary researcher who integrates modern psychological, Hellenistic, and Vedic astrology with philosophy, psychology, and history to illuminate patterns of personal growth and societal transformation. Take it away, Christina.
When Jupiter in Leo transits the fourth house, it shines light into the darkest part of the chart, the inner foundations we inherit. It invites us to become the spiritual authority of our own inner temple. This year, if you have Jupiter in Leo transiting your fourth house, you will experience that invitation personally, both inwardly and in your home. While preparing this talk, I realized that this same pattern appears across traditions in Greek mythology, the Rig Veda, and a surprise modern-day myth. Each offers a different perspective, though, on liberation, courage, and discovering our deepest truth. Let's begin with Apollo and the founding of Delphi. Apollo was the god of light, wisdom, and prophecy, which all reflect Leo and Jupiter. He was seeking a place to establish his own temple and chose Delphi because it was the spiritual center of the Greek world. But the sanctuary was guarded by the great serpent Python, which some stories suggest was placed there by his stepmother Hera. To establish his temple, Apollo had to first slay the serpent, but even he couldn't claim authority through force alone. Afterward, he had to go through ritual purification before he could become Delphi's legitimate spiritual guardian and patron deity. This myth suggests the path we all must take to establish our inner home. We each inherit a family python. Old fears, inherited beliefs, family patterns, anything that stands between us and our self-authority. Before we can guide others, like Apollo did through the oracle at Delphi, something within us must first be transformed. From the Vedic tradition, Jupiter is associated with Brihaspati, or more commonly known as Guru. Like Apollo, Brihaspati is a patron of wisdom, sacred speech, and compassionate guidance. The Rig Veda praises him because he went where no other god had gone before and created a path for others to follow. He was also called the tamer of the fierce. In one myth, demons hide sacred cows inside a cave, with the cows symbolizing inspiration, knowledge, and illumination or light. Brihaspati uses his voice and sacred speech to shatter the rocks and liberate them. By freeing what had been imprisoned, Brihaspati reveals a profound truth. Wisdom liberates what force cannot. Perhaps Jupiter is inviting you to become your own guru by creating a path no one in your family has walked before. And this may require courage to use your voice to speak a new truth. Joseph Campbell famously observed, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." Fear guards the entrance, but liberating truth waits inside. And that brings us to our modern day myth, King Aslan the Lion in the Chronicles of Narnia. Like Apollo and Brihaspati, Aslan seeks to liberate his home from the White Witch's eternal winter. But his defining act is not the military victory at the end of the series. It's his willing sacrifice on the stone table in Edmund's place. Though the White Witch initially believed she had won, she discovers Aslan knew an older law or an older truth called the deeper magic from before the dawn of time. This deeper magic overcomes force through compassion, sacrifice, and truth. While Edmund had been imprisoned literally by the White Witch, he was also imprisoned by the guilt he felt for betraying his friends for sweets. Aslan's resurrection becomes the act that ultimately frees not just Narnia, but also Edmund, both literally and spiritually. Likewise, the journey into the cave we fear to enter requires self-compassion, where there has been criticism imprisoning our inner child. It asks us to surrender pride, fear, defense mechanisms, anything that's keeping us from that something deeper that needs to be liberated. Now, across all of these traditions, we see a pattern. A wise spiritual leader establishing a path, a temple, a home, but it's not through domination. It's by revealing truth and liberating what has been hidden. In Vedic astrology, the fourth house is called moksha, a place of liberation through surrender. Jupiter's transit through Leo here invites exactly this kind of inner liberation, which eventually becomes visible through the 10th house. Without the fourth house work, there's no 10th house rewards. You can't become a wise leader without first confronting what guards the gate to your own authenticity. And those inner demons aren't conquered by force. They're transformed through courage and compassion and the willingness to speak your new truth. And that is the leadership others want to follow. As Jupiter moves through Leo this year and trines Saturn and Neptune in Aries, there may be opportunities to reclaim who I am. Whatever your truth is, it's the foundation from which the rest of your life is built. The wisdom cultivated at the base of your chart reverberates through every other house. So I'll leave you with the same inscription that greeted pilgrims entering Apollo's temple at Delphi. Know thyself. Perhaps that is Jupiter's deepest invitation during this fourth house transit. Illuminate what has been remained hidden. Become the steward of your own inner temple, and allow that inner liberation to radiate into every other part of your life.
Wow, Christina, illuminating what's hidden in the darkest part of the chart. You brought so many different traditions into that presentation. The way you connected the family inheritance to Python was especially striking for me. If we had more time to follow the story, we'd find Apollo's priestesses were also called the Pythia or Pythonesses, suggesting that what is transformed may later become a source of wisdom and service. So thank you for showing us that. I think this is a theme that has happened a few times. Sue talked about emotional attachment. Earlier, we talked about something similar. So we continue to open this panel up with these insights. And thank you, Christina, for opening a rich mythic doorway into the fourth. Brandon, what image, question, or possibility would you place alongside Christina's many images?
I absolutely love how Christina wove together these three different myths, the story of Apollo overcoming Python, the story of Guru releasing the sacred cows, and the story of Aslan restoring Narnia. These are three beautiful images. And what was striking to me was that each of them had this cold, powerful opponent. And that really brought into my head, again, the co-presence of Jupiter with the South Node, especially when she talked about the old magic that Aslan was calling upon, this more ancient wisdom. And then with the opposition to the North Node and Pluto in Aquarius, I could really see the Snow Queen. I could see Python. I could see the Asuras as this opposing force through which Jupiter has to approach. It has to go into that cave to get the treasure. I could really see, even if it was unconscious in her process, maybe it was conscious in how she constructed these stories, but I love how that undercurrent of the aspects within the transit that are gonna be there this whole year were all present in those myths. So I loved that.
Yeah, me too, Brandon. Thanks for bringing out all those pieces. And we are going to talk about the nodes. We're going to talk about the Pluto opposition later on in the panel also. So thank you both. Let's move now to Amelie Gebhard and the fifth house. Amelie Gebhard is a Berlin-based astrologer, artist, and speaker. Her work integrates psychological, evolutionary, and archetypal astrology to help people discover their creative potential as part of the human experience with clarity and compassion. Indeed. Amelie, please tell us about Jupiter's transit through the fifth house.
Imagine the fifth house was a real physical place. How would it look? A golden palace? An artist's studio? A romantic boudoir? Those images belong here too. But in my mind, I see something else. A peaceful landscape, a place filled with laughter, and a heart shining from the rooftop. The fifth house invites you to play, reminds you how joy feels, and your heart remembers why it came here. When Jupiter enters this house, many astrologers will tell you, you might fall in love, your creativity will flourish, take an acting class. You might even have children. All of that may be true. But today I would like to take you somewhere deeper, because I believe Jupiter is offering us a deeper connection to our authentic self-expression. He is inviting that heart on the rooftop to shine brighter. In the 5th house, I see 3 gifts unfolding, each one revealing a little more of what makes you uniquely you. The first gift is the inner child. In the 5th house, we can rediscover the part of ourselves that existed before we learned to perform for approval. The child who played simply because playing was pleasure enough. Many adults lose contact with that part of themselves. We become productive, responsible, successful. Over time, our striving becomes rooted in society's expectations rather than in what feels authentic and joyful. Jupiter asks, what brings you genuine joy simply because your soul says yes? The retrograde phase is an invitation to slow down, and right here Chiron reaches out and forms a trine. With an unhealed wound, we live in lack. That trine offers the chance to shift from our shadow material toward the sheer zest of living fully, because that's what Jupiter really wants here. No performance, just you. Take your inner child by the hand and experience things anew. Revisit forgotten passions and reconnect with the part of yourself that once learned it wasn't safe to play. Maybe now you can give your inner parts all of that yourself and step into the world from that safe place instead. Our greatest creations rarely come because life was easy. They come because we dared to create anyway. The second gift is self-efficacy, the deep trust that I can shape my life. Not simply I have talent, but I have impact. We are not here merely to repeat the past. We are here to become. The 5th house is where we discover our creative agency in art and the way we shape our lives. Every choice becomes an act of creation. Not long after Jupiter first steps into Leo, he's in the heart of the Sun while opposing Pluto. Illumination and empowerment born in the same breath. You will get permission to want more and to take up space. But the real story unfolds here. For much of this transit, Jupiter travels along the south node. Expansion and release moving together at the very same degree. And I don't think that's only a contradiction. It's the safeguard. The south node keeps Leo honest. It's what keeps self-empowerment from becoming an ego show, self-efficacy from tipping into narcissism, and self-actualization from becoming grandiosity. It keeps asking which version of yourself has already fulfilled its purpose. Self-empowerment says, I am allowed. Self-efficacy says, I can. Together, they become who we already are. The third gift is the pure fire of enthusiasm. Many people believe Leo wants to shine. I'm not so sure. I think Leo wants to illuminate. Shining attracts attention. Illuminating creates life. The highest expression of Jupiter in the 5th house isn't becoming the brightest star in the room. It's becoming a light that helps others see more clearly. Our creativity becomes an offering. Our courage permits others to be courageous. Our enthusiasm becomes contagious. Mars joins Jupiter here, giving you the courage to act on what you dream. Be bold, be brave, follow your joy. And look at these grand fire trines. This is real momentum, the spark that connects you with your creative gifts. The lunations or the eclipses on the nodal axis, don't read these as isolated events. See them as larger pattern. They become anchor points where the universe sets your creative fire in motion. Enthusiasm comes from the Greek entheos, filled by God, to be permeated by the whole universe. That to me is the sacred purpose of this house. So if you remember only one thing today, let it be this. Step into the world from that safe place. Become who you already are and let enthusiasm move through you. Because in the end, Jupiter in the 5th house is asking you to become more alive. Go back to that house in your mind. The one filled with laughter, the people swinging over the water. Now look up at the roof. That heart is yours. Jupiter in Leo doesn't give you a new one. He simply asks you to let it shine until it lights the way for someone else. Because the world doesn't need brighter stars, it needs brighter hearts. When your creativity becomes a gift to the world, you are no longer simply expressing yourself. You are participating in creation.
Wow, Amelie, I appreciate how you kept returning us to joy. I found myself smiling again and again as you spoke, without making joy frivolous. You gave us a 5th house in which creativity becomes agency, not performance for approval, which I think we've shared multiple times. But the courage to make play, desire, and take up space because something in us genuinely says, you brought in the nodes, you brought in Chiron, you brought in Mars, you brought in the grand fire trines. We'll be returning to the shifting nodes and Chiron at the end of the panel, so stay tuned. But thank you, Amelie, for packing so much into that presentation. So, Amelie named Jupiter's 3 gifts to us as we navigate the transit through the 5th house. From an evolutionary perspective, what would you add for someone experiencing Jupiter moving through this house?
In ancient mythology, Jupiter shapeshifts. Take the Jupiterian risk by shedding conditioned constraints adopted as a child. Those might easily be interfering with experiencing your heart's deeply innate, joyful playfulness. You'll discover what holds deep meaning for your heart's sacred path because each step of creativity awakens your individuality. Creativity is change. Individuality is change. Jupiter is change. It shapeshifts. By engaging in your creative life you adore pursuing, Jupiter in Leo amplifies feeling totally alive, shining your authentic soul's loving light to all you meet.
I just want to be a big heart for that. That was like so sweet. Thank you, Sue. Let's move now to the 6th house with Sinem Ayhan. Sinem is an Istanbul-based astrologer and certified translator. She studies at Kepler College and Art School of Astrology with a special interest in traditional astrology, predictive techniques, and thoughtful client-centered consultation. Tell us how Jupiter's transit in Leo through the 6th house will impact our clients. Sinem.
When the houses were offered for this panel, I chose the 6th house without hesitation. Mala Fortuna, bad fortune, the house of Mars, illness, injury, servitude, hard labor. I'm not sure there's anything unflattering that hasn't been said about the 6th house. It sometimes feels like classical astrology's unwanted child. So perhaps it was time someone sat beside this neglected house, especially while the Jupiter, the greater benefic, was paying a visit. But Jupiter is not a rescue team, and a transit is not a script. No transit unfolds in isolation. Your natal chart shapes how you experience it. Instead of predicting one event for everyone, I want to explore the questions this transit may bring closer to the surface. The sixth house is often reduced to work, health, routines, and service. Its older symbolism is harder: illness, dependency, necessary labor, and the demands of a body we do not fully command. In traditional astrology, it doesn't see the ascendant by a major aspect. Symbolically, it describes parts of life that do not always feel fully under our control. The medication still has to be taken. The animal still has to be fed. The room still has to be cleaned. The body still needs care. Someone has to do the work that allows everything else to continue. And much of that work receives no applause. Then Leo enters the room and asks, "Can your heart still be present here?" Not only when you are creating something beautiful, not only when you are being recognized, not only when your work feels important or inspiring. Here, while repeating the task, while caring for the body, while supporting another person, while doing something necessary that no one else may ever notice. If Jupiter in Leo is moving through your sixth house, I have 3 questions for you. First, where have you become the person everyone relies on? Maybe you remember the appointment, answer the late message, feed the animal, or notice what needs doing before everyone asks. You step in, you keep things moving, you make yourself available. That may be care, skill, even devotion. But when everyone relies on you, do you still have room to be a person rather than a function? Second, what does being needed give you? Perhaps it gives you purpose. Perhaps it makes you feel loyal, generous, competent, even heroic. Jupiter can expand your sense of meaning. Leo can make the role feel noble. But has usefulness become proof that you matter? Who are you when no one needs anything from you? There is an important difference between being useful and disappearing into usefulness. You may be doing everything that needs to be done. You may be even doing it beautifully. But where are you in all of this? Third, what is this role costing you? Do you keep saying yes after your body has already said no? Jupiter doesn't only bring opportunity. Sometimes it simply brings more. More work, more responsibility, more people depending on you. And Leo may tempt you to become the hero, the person who carries everything, rescues everyone, and somehow keeps smiling while doing it. Are you genuinely helping? Or are you trying to become indispensable? Is generosity sustainable, or is your body quietly paying the cost? The body eventually tells the truth about the life we have asked it to support. Choose one responsibility or act of care that has become almost invisible in your life. Notice it, name it, recognize what it makes possible. Then ask yourself, does this require my care? Does it require my excellence? Or does it require a boundary? Not every task deserves the same amount of your life force. Sometimes the heart returns through greater devotion, sometimes through asking for help, sometimes through a clear no. Jupiter's gift may not be the desire to do more, but the wisdom to understand what deserves to grow. The sixth house may never become the glamorous house of the chart. Perhaps it shouldn't. Life is not sustained only by its most exciting moments. It is sustained by attention, repetition, maintenance, and care. Not every act of service needs an audience. but it can also turn service into a stage where we prove our worth by carrying more than we should. The task is not to care less. It is to bring your heart to the work without giving the work all of you, to serve without disappearing. So perhaps the question is not how much more can I carry? Perhaps it is simply, can my heart still be present here?
Thank you, Sinem, for sitting beside classical astrology's neglected child rather than trying to rescue it from what it is. Can my heart still be present here? What a great question. In the realm of repetition, duty, and care, work that may never get applauded. I'm so glad you chose this house, Sinem. I would want everyone with a natal sixth house Jupiter or even Sun, Moon, even Venus to listen to your take on the sixth house. Courtney, Sinem reminded us that Jupiter expands, and in the sixth, it may actually add more responsibilities, more work, and more people relying on us. What blessing or gift or antidote does the King of the Gods bring along with those additional responsibilities?
Whistling while you work, Magna. Like, what could it bring? Whistle while you work. I thank you so much, Sinem, because you talked about something that was so important. And I loved when you said to serve without disappearing. The fact that the idea of not needing to rescue anyone. I keep thinking about how society glorifies martyrism. And martyrism doesn't bring joy. And, Leo is joyful, right? It wants you to have joyful. And I loved how you kept on asking questions, which is also very Jupiterian, right? So ask so many questions. This person should ask so many questions about why they're doing things, why they're behaving this way, why they feel like they do need to save anybody else, or why they're doing the work that they're doing. We're really all here to do meaningful work. And we all have something to share with the world, but why am I doing it? And I think Sinem got that point across so well. And I just was so excited. And I also love that you talked about listening to her body, because it's also very sixth house, and our body has a way of telling us when we're tired. So I love that you said that. Here, I also, when you were talking, I kept on thinking about the greatest gift you could give somebody when you love somebody is to see their strength, maybe before they see it. And when you see their strength, they have a way of discovering it themselves. And so having your heart be present, and thank you so much, Sinem, for honestly, everyone should listen to this. This is a great sixth house speech. So thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Two things. One is I will always remember whistle while you work for the sixth house from now until eternity. And you just kind of foreshadowed exactly where we're going. For somebody else to reflect our gifts to us, we turn to the seventh house. Ishil Karabulut is an architect and astrologer specializing in astromapping with multiple roles at Kepler College, including course builder, teaching assistant, and graphic developer for the Kepler College app. We cross the horizon for the first time and enter the visible realm of the sky with the seventh house. Take it away, Ishil.
Have you ever noticed that the moment you say, I'm finally going to focus on myself, then life suddenly sends you people? A new client, a new friend, a business partner, someone asking for advice, someone asking you out for coffee, maybe even someone asking you to marry them. It's almost as if the universe smiles you and say, that's wonderful, but let's see how you do with other humans first. Well, that's Jupiter in your seventh house. Jupiter in Leo will be traveling through your seventh house until late July 2027. As an Aquarius rising, because I use whole sign house system, one of the myths I immediately think of is Prometheus. Prometheus, the titan associated with foresight, was allowed to give humanity almost everything except fire. But he knew life couldn't truly flourish without it. So he stole a flame from Apollo's sun chariot and brought it down to earth. He was a rebel. And here is the interesting part. Prometheus didn't create the fire himself. He received it through someone else. If Aquarius is one end of the axis, Leo is the other. While Aquarius is fascinating by ideas, innovation, change, and communication, Leo asks a different question. What are you going to do with those ideas? Leo is action. Leo is creativity. Leo is confidence. Leo is the noble heart that keeps the fire alive. Now Jupiter enters that world. Jupiter is visiting your 7th house, the house of relationships, partnerships, collaboration, and the people standing across from you. You are allowing other people to step into roles you may not yet feel ready to claim for yourself. And that's exactly what makes the Prometheus story so meaningful. As an Aquarius rising, the fire you are looking for may not arrive because you suddenly become more Leo. It may arrive through Leo, through someone standing across from you, through a partner, through a client, through a collaborator. Just as Prometheus received fire from Apollo, your growth during this transit may come through another person. Sometimes the qualities we need most first appear in someone else before we recognize them in ourselves. As the greater benefic, Jupiter is all about growth and expansion. Everything he touches tends to multiply. He brings opportunities, wisdom, abundance, and perspective. He is also associated with travel, exploring new cultures, and meeting people who broaden your world. During this transit, growth often arises wearing someone else's face. As Jupiter travels through your 7th house, you will likely experience growth through partnerships, new people, and even challenges. These experiences help you become wiser and more successful. The people closest to you may offer completely new perspectives about yourself and about life. Relationships of every kind can expand. You may build an important business partnership. You may attract supportive clients. You may even consider marriage, especially with someone from another country. You'll also meet people who offer valuable support exactly when you need it. Now, let's talk about Leo. Leo is warm, Leo is generous, Leo is radiant. But Leo is also fire. In Leo's world, the land is always ablaze. Fire makes life possible, but too much fire burns. And that's one of the Jupiter's biggest lessons during this transit. Expansion is beautiful, but excess, not always. It's easy to carry it away even by something wonderful. Travel can broaden your horizons. Too much travel can disconnect you from your roots. Relationships can become deeply fulfilling, but don't lose yourself trying to become everything for someone else. Give as much as you receive. There's also the possibility of becoming so focused on one-on-one clients or partnerships that you end up glued to your desk while your body quietly asks for attention. Growth should include your well-being but not replace it. The 7th house is also the house of opposition. I like to imagine it standing on the opposite side of the room. From there, you can see things you couldn't see before, but if you want to truly connect, you have to walk across the room. That's what this house teaches. Perspective, dialogue, connection. You may discover that the spark you've been looking for doesn't appear in isolation. It arrives through connection. So, Enjoy this colorful Jupiter transit. Stay open. Say yes to meaningful relationships. Keep your own fire burning. And if Prometheus teaches us anything, it's this. Sometimes the light that changes your life is first carried by someone else. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Ishil. I'm especially struck by your idea that growth may arrive wearing someone else's face, that another person may temporarily carry the confidence, the wisdom, the opportunity, or the fire we have not yet recognized in ourselves. Norma Jean, how's the view of this from the first house? What might help someone recognize and receive that opportunity without losing their own center?
I appreciate how Isel reminded us that Leo keeps the fire burning. And fire is the energy and the light that's within us. We learn so much from our interactions with others. We are always connecting with people and being concerned about how we show up. It's a pattern of recognition where we do see people that are like us, and then we see our differences. It is so dynamic to be aware of how we bring ourselves to the place of collaborating with people and being in a place of sharing and recognizing their value and what they bring to us by being who they are. I really loved the whole idea of expanding the experience of giving and receiving through the first 7 dynamic.
Thank you. It was lovely. And the giving and receiving, what a great way to contextualize the first and the 7th house. Now we enter the gate of Hades and the 8th house. Woo! And as you may remember from the 2nd house, we are going to do this one also as a table topic. Here, things are going to get a little more intimate, entangled, and mysterious, as things do in Hades. So I'd like to invite a few panelists to take up one of these questions for about 2 minutes. How about you, Christina? I would love for you to take this table topic. What might Jupiter in Leo reveal about trust, vulnerability, or shared power?
The modern astrological shorthand for the 8th house is often sex, death, and taxes, which are 3 experiences that ask us to let go or surrender something. And it's easy to see how sex and taxes require vulnerability and shared power. So I'd like to focus this on death for a second. And as Meghna just hinted, the ancient Hellenistic tradition referred to both the 2nd and the 8th houses as the gates of Hades because of their positioning with the ascendant descendant. So you can differentiate them with 2 complementary questions. In the 8th, before entering the underworld, what must you surrender? And then in the 2nd, before leaving the underworld, what treasure do you bring back? So this theme of surrendering and gaining treasure reminds me of the story of Nachiketa from the Upanishads. So I'll keep this really brief, but in a nutshell, Yama, the Lord of Death, offers Nachiketa 3 wishes. And with his 3rd wish, he asks, what survives death? Now, Yama doesn't want to tell him that, so he tries to change his mind by offering all the 2nd house stuff that most people spend their lives pursuing, but Nachiketa refuses because he's seeking the truth. So Yama finally reveals that the true self is what's untouched by death. So to me, that's the heart of vulnerability and power in the 8th house, because the only thing that you're taking with you after death is your birthday suit. So Jupiter's transit here asks a question similar to the question that Nachiketa asked Yama. If Other people's expectations and beliefs and fears are surrendered. What part of you survives? And each of us leading with our true selves is the essence of the shared power and the vulnerability of the eighth house.
Wow, way to take us so deep, exactly where Hades would want us to go. Thank you, Christina. And I wonder if we can even take our birthday suit beyond death. Maybe it's just the essence of what we were inside it. Thank you, Christina. How about you, Sinem? How would you like a table topics question?
Yes, please.
How would you, Sinem, how could this transit expand someone's capacity to receive support, intimacy, or resources from others?
The eighth house has never been considered an easy place. It is associated with death, fear, death, inheritances, and resources that belong to others rather than ourselves. So what happens when Jupiter, the greater benefic, enters this part of the chart? A person may become more open to receiving what cannot be provided alone. That could take the form of financial assistance, shared assets, wise counsel, an inheritance, or practical help during a difficult period. It may also deepen trust within close relationships by making it easier to admit when help is needed. Some people are very comfortable giving, yet find it much harder to receive. Jupiter here may broaden their understanding of mutual support and remind them that dependence is sometimes part of human life rather than a personal failure. Yet, Jupiter enlarges whatever it touches. Here, that can bring heavier obligations, greater debt, or too much reliance on what belongs to someone else. Receiving well requires discernment. So support may arrive generously, but it still needs to be handled with care, sound judgment, and a clear understanding of the responsibilities involved. Perhaps Jupiter's greatest gift in the eighth house is the reminder that even in life's most difficult passages, we are not without hope, support, or grace.
Thank you, Sinem. It strikes me that you're sitting there in this room and it's nighttime in Turkey and there's these shadows on your face as you're talking. And I'm like, oh my God, I really feel like went into the gate of Hades there for a second. That was wonderful. And indeed, discernment does feel like the key piece. Both Nachiketas and what you shared, Sinem, with Jupiter's transit through there feels really relevant, that we bring discernment, especially to the sixth and the eighth houses, which are averse to the first. Now I'd like to turn to our next presenter, Andrew Watt, who will be covering the ninth house for us. Andrew B. Watt is an astrologer, poet, and artist working in Western Massachusetts. Consulting with clients since 2017, he works primarily with Hellenistic, Arabic, and medieval European techniques. Take it away, Andrew.
Several of my colleagues have spoken quite movingly about Jupiter in Leo. I'm not going to go too much into the various delineations, but Jupiter in Leo in the ninth offers a couple of different suggestions for personal development that I think are worth exploring. The first is that Leo is about royal palaces. And so if you have travel plans and you have plans to see any place that has royal connotations, if you've ever wanted to visit Versailles, for example, Jupiter in Leo would be a great year to go and visit some royal palaces somewhere in the world, if that's your bag. Closer to home, it's worth thinking about the fact that Jupiter is a planet that represents leadership, not necessarily the top role, but some of the mid-level roles. And ninth house, among other things, represents religious organizations. It represents schools, institutions of higher learning, community centers, and organizations that serve the public in some fashion. It's also associated with mental health and with magic. All of those sorts of things, plus the significations of Jupiter in leadership, all suggest that it would be a good time to think about taking roles in community organizations as a member of their board, as a member of their advisory council. It's not to say that you're about to become the priest or the chief warden of the vestry or parish council or the board of directors of your synagogue or other religious organizations, but it is worth thinking about whether or not those roles would be suited to you. So if you have Jupiter in the ninth in Leo, royal palaces for travel makes great targets for your journeying and for your tourist adventures overseas. And closer to home, thinking about taking on a role in your religious organization as part of the leadership team, lay leadership team. All those sorts of things make a good deal of sense. Jupiter in Leo is also expected to work. For the last year, Jupiter has been in Cancer, and the traditional texts talking about Jupiter in Cancer say that a planet in its exaltation is like a prince in a foreign country where he is a welcome guest. When we think about that combination, welcome guest, foreign country, yes, the prince is expected to do a fair bit of work. They're expected to engage in high-level conversations, state head to state head, but they're also expected to go to a lot of parties. Jupiter in Leo is different. Jupiter in Leo is considered to be one of the triplicity rulers. And a triplicity ruler is like a Secretary of State or a Secretary of Defense. They're somebody who is part of the leadership team, but not the top person. And Jupiter in particular is what's known as the cooperating ruler in sun signs. When we think about a cooperating ruler, that means somebody who's come up through the bureaucracy as a career diplomat and knows all of the official information, but isn't a political appointee. And so that suggests a very different kind of working attitude and working model of success than somebody who didn't come up through the bureaucracy, who was simply appointed because they had the right political loyalties and political leanings. Ursula Le Guin has said numerous times that there are no particular secrets to learning anything. The only thing is practice. So if you have ambitions to write a book, if you have ambitions to make a film or to create a documentary, this is your year, provided that you work every single day. Put out work, create work, and recognize that doing the work is the essence of being a careerist. So adopting some of Jupiter's work habits and showing up to work every single day is the way to get ahead. It is worth talking, because I'm so interested in the decans overall, about some of the structures that you can benefit from this year. From now, when we're making this in mid-July until mid-August, you're going to focus on the skill sets and the expertises that you want, and you're going to build a list of places that you would like to go. August 14th to October 3rd, you're actually going to go out and do those things. And because the ninth house is associated with higher learning, if you're going to go back and get a degree, this is the time to do that and to start this fall. October 3rd to February 27th is about planning travel with others and going out and visiting places as a group, not simply as a solo traveler, but having plans to go somewhere or do something with someone else. If you're a writer, this would be a good time to be thinking about the artists that you want to work with, who your editor and copy editors and first readers are going to be. February 27th to May 28th is about seeking those certifications and quick trips and learning how to lead within the organization that you decide to join if you decide to do that. May 28th to July 26th is about commanding the group to go and do something together, and directing resources and bringing together a bunch of people in a reunion kind of way in one particular location and getting them all moving at the same time. I hope this helps you navigate Jupiter in Leo this coming year.
Whew. Very practical and applicable guidance, Andrew. You've made this unusually actionable, not only where opportunity may appear, but when to build skills, when to travel, pursue certification, accept responsibility, and gather people in a shared direction. I hope you turned that timing sequence into a poster or video for all the 12 houses. I know that's asking maybe too much, but when you do, please let us know. For those of us who want to stay in the know, you'll find Andrew's links below for his work and everybody else's, so you can stay in touch with us, and maybe Andrew will write a special blog with that wonderful, actionable sequence for all of us. Sula, how might a Hellenistic lens sharpen or complicate Andrew's guidance for Jupiter transiting the 9th house?
I love how Andrew brought in the working nature of Jupiter, because I think that's sometimes lost on people. We think that Jupiter just shows up and they're the king and everything's abundant. But Jupiter does really require the work to gain the respect, to earn your place in leadership. And I think that in terms of the Hellenistic perspective, it's also a Cadent house, right? So it's also still falling away from the angle. It's falling away from the 10th house. And the 10th house is where the reputation is built, but you're kind of, the learning and everything that's coming out of it is critical to earning your place in leadership. The other thing I want to bring up is that it's the joy of the sun. And the fact that Leo, this is for Sag rising. So with a Sag rising being in the house, that's the joy of the sun. And Sag is loving how to travel. The advice of going to visit castles and royal palaces is right spot on. I think that's a wonderful advice for somebody with a Sag rising and experiencing a Jupiter year.
Thank you, Sula. If you guys are noticing we're doing this is American Sign Language for applause. So we're just excited to see each other. And that's why you're seeing us doing this over and over again on the screen. Let's move now to the 10th house, to Brandon Hansen, who is serving as the president of Kepler Astrologers Toastmasters this year. Thank you for serving, Brandon. Brandon is a stargazer from the Southwest US and teaches astronomy for Kepler College. Today, he'll be using a medieval-style square chart to demonstrate Jupiter in the 10th, but he identifies as a meta-modern astrologer.
In a short guide on writing called Literary Composition, infamous cosmic horror author H.P. Lovecraft advised writers that the end of a story must be stronger than the beginning, since it is the end which contains the culmination. Now, culmination is a word that certainly can be understood as a kind of narrative climax, but it actually entered the English language as an astronomical term, referring to a celestial body making its way to the highest point in the sky. This ties the topic of culmination directly to the 10th house, giving our first keyword for the placement of Jupiter in Leo for this section. Now, as Magna said, I will be using a square chart to help us visualize and organize our predictions for this transit. And I want to give 3 reasons why you might choose to try out a square chart in your practice. First, they're easy to make via folding. No compass or protractor needed, and I'll show you how we do this. 2, adding elements one at a time helps avoid the confusion and overload that often comes with computer-generated charts, which show 100 things at once. And this helps you focus on what matters most. And 3, the chart is tangible, which really helps people like myself who are kinesthetic learners. And if you use a little bit of style, add your creativity to it, then it can become a beautiful keepsake for a client. So We're going to make this square chart by taking the bottom corner and bringing it up to the top edge to crease. Then we take the top corner down to the bottom to crease, making this triangle. Finally, we fold the triangle over and crease before unfolding our paper. This gives 4 triangular sections, which give us our angular houses, 1, 4, 7, with 10 culminating at the top. And it also gives us a column to put our notes in this case, our predictions. A few notes before we get into those. The sign of Leo culminates in the 10th house when the sign of Scorpio rises in the east. This makes the chart ruler Mars, while Jupiter rules a few other houses. And because this is also a transit, we should regard Jupiter as someone else whose actions impact you. Additionally, when Scorpio rises in the east, Jupiter rules the 2nd house here because it has the sign of Sagittarius within it. And it also rules the 5th house here, which holds Pisces. So Jupiter will be taking the topics of the 2nd and 5th houses to their culmination. And finally, when in the 10th, Jupiter makes a beautiful trine aspect to the 2nd house. So these topics will be especially prominent. So getting into my predictions for Jupiter in Leo transiting the 10th house. First is that someone will advise you to cultivate an abundance mindset. This is because Jupiter is a teacher and associated with philosophy or optimism. The sign of Leo adds a sense of passion and fixity, and the 10th house gives them a higher perspective or vantage point. They'll bring in topics from the 2nd, including resources and security, and from the 5th, a childlike enthusiasm. So you might read the book Abundance by Ezra Klein and contemplate his thoughts on it. You might hear about these ideas in a speech from a politician or an interview from a tech bro, or you might see it exemplified in a child's play. The shadow of this is that as a Scorpio ascendant, you might find these topics to be tone deaf, especially if you don't respect who they're coming from. But I encourage you to still try and see how they can benefit your life. For the 2nd prediction, I think you might witness an iconic performance. This is because Jupiter can be someone charismatic and growing. Leo can give a sense of confidence, and the 10th provides a spotlight. From the 2nd, they'll bring in their voice or words, and from the 5th, creativity. So your favorite artist might release an album and you buy a record variant, especially one with their face on it. You might go to a sold-out concert where the atmosphere is electric. Or your favorite song might go viral on TikTok and you learn the dance. For the shadow, the performance might be iconic for the wrong reason. Think Fergie singing the national anthem. 4th, you might experience family honor, as Jupiter can be a parent or spouse, Leo can bring radiance, and the 10th can give achievement and can also represent a parent. From the 2nd, we get familial support, and the 5th holds children, so many members of the family could be involved. Your son might graduate from university, a parent might release a cookbook with family recipes, or your husband could be promoted at work, helping to supplement your family income. And finally, your boss or company might experience publicity, with Jupiter being a leader, Leo being associated with authority, the 10th with career or the public, and from the 2nd, resources, and the 5th, expression. So a brand social media post might go viral, or your boss's promotion lifts the entire team up. Or finally, a new product launch is successful. The shadow of this is that Higher publicity might mean higher scrutiny from the public. You could get an increased workload, or your boss could be especially demanding. So in conclusion, I hope this lesson has helped you see how we can create specific predictions from combining different keywords and inspires you to play with making square charts yourself. And for my Scorpio ascendants, may this next year bring a culmination that helps you end up stronger than you began.
What a fitting 10th house promise. The ending must be stronger than the beginning because the culmination contains everything that came before it. Brandon, as a kinesthetic learner and teacher, you've given us a way to make the chart tangible, both through the folded chart itself and by building meaning one keyword at a time. Christina, what helps Jupiter in the 10th create a meaningful culmination rather than simply a bigger public profile?
The thing I enjoyed most about Brandon's talk is something he didn't actually say, but instead he demonstrated, which is that he used creative self-expression that matched his own kinesthetic learning style. So you hit the nail on the head, Meghna, in a way that illuminated looking at a chart in a completely different way. And I think that's an excellent example of how to know thyself and use your knowledge of how you experience the world as a podium for how to lead or teach or entertain others in the 10th house way. And I also enjoyed the playfulness that came out because Jupiter in Leo in the 10th has such an inviting way of asking others to play with us by putting our own skills on display. And so I'm glad as well that the culmination point was able to be reached because I know Brandon has to get going. So thank you, Brandon.
Oh, thank you so much, Christina. And thank you, Meghna, for hosting this panel. I'm so sad that I have to leave before it finishes, but congratulations to all you cats. This has been really wonderful to hear all of your speeches. As my mug says, teaching is a work of heart, and I'm going to go teach some children how to fly. So, see you later.
I want to learn how to fly, Brandon. I want to sign up for that class. Thanks, Brandon. See you. Carrying on, despite missing Brandon, we're going to continue and enjoy the next house with Sue Minahan. She'll be covering the 11th house. Sue hosts Talk Cosmos, weekly astrological conversations awakening soul consciousness since 2018 across YouTube, Facebook, radio, and podcasts. She's an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, vibrational astrology student, speaker, writer, mythologist, musician, and artist. Might we say Renaissance woman? Take it away, Sue.
How do you make your dreams come true? Remember being a kid, looking up at the evening sky and waiting for that very first twinkle at dusk? Maybe you still find yourself silently reciting it. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. Wish I may, wish I might, have this wish I wish tonight. And that childhood wish was our very first attempt at reaching out to the cosmos. Now, as an astrologer, when I look at the sky, especially right there in the 11th house, I see where those personal wishes meet the collective universe. It's where you find your friends, your people who reflect your goals, together symbolizing a realistic future you seek, all focused inside your hopes and dreams, yearning to wake up into the present time. This 11th house with Jupiter in Leo transiting spells out friendship, future, community, networking, expands optimistic opportunities with confidence, generosity, and energy where we feel the sky's the limit. Here's Jupiter's optimism in Leo's heart in the 11th house joyfully singing, "Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Here we are together. Never mind the weather." Jupiter in Leo 11th house includes everybody as a friend, caring for their needs, in exchange of give and take, a mantra to give and let live. Here's the bottom line. We fully realize who we are through community and shared purpose. Creativity thrives when we enjoy the work together, value the full picture, and honor every role. The 11th house instigates great change by evolving our consciousness. Joining a collective alters us internally. Focus moves beyond the self towards the good of all. Together, our renewed vision and strength restore hope for a new future. Group efforts spark creative, expansive growth that transforms every individual experiencing the collective goal. This Kepler Astrology Toastmasters webinar exemplifies that exact shared intention, refining our speaking and stepping into our leadership roles together. Our club's natal chart has late Virgo rising. Today, transiting Jupiter at 5 degrees Leo illuminates our Kepler Astrology Toastmasters 11th house. We're displaying our leadership further by each contributing an integral part in illustrating all the astrological archetypal functions of Jupiter transiting this year. Through our community's circle of new friendships, we grow beyond what we first knew, opening a wider scope than imagined. Yet this 11th house sits in the 3rd quadrant in the upper eastern sky above the horizon, and it offers an objective perspective with individual freedom, choosing one's path. Jupiter in Leo enhances this 11th house location. It sets the stage where we become both an objective audience and an independent actor. But not all the silver lining. There's a few catches with the 11th house Jupiter in Leo. One is Jupiter expansion gets excessive. Just think of Jack and the Beanstalk with the giant. When our reality of the moment gets lost, with ungrounded perspectives, out of touch with the present time, then we're floating within the hopes of the future. Keeping the direction of your goals foremost is essential for successful transits in the 11th house. And ask yourself, where are you headed? Another to watch. Whenever you join a group, Jupiter can blind us with our own opinions until we encounter someone else's, forcing us to face our own inner mirror. But support is on the way because Jupiter in Leo magnifies possibilities of adjusting to love's generous message of inclusivity to transform your inner mirror. Wherever Leo's heart shines, it embraces the whole of life. Its love restructures those limited belief patterns. Because each person brings a whole library of personal beliefs, and that diversity is precisely what fuels our growth. Take this year to welcome opportunities, to manifest a new role of leadership for yourself as part of a community. Listen to what your heart wishes for this year. Bring those goals to life by connecting with a group, online, in person, or by sharing your written voice. The ingredient you add through your presence contributes to the kettle cooking a new broth, nourishing everyone who fills up a plate at the potluck party of life as Jupiter in Leo visits your 11th house. Ultimately, Jupiter in a Leo develops wisdom by absorbing experiences. Choose your direction. Find your group. Live it now. Let your present moment shapeshift into new consciousness. Dare to risk, step beyond your ego and into all of humanity and enter the field of unlimited possibilities.
What a vivid picture of the 11th house, Sue. The place where personal hopes meet community, friendship, and a larger future. I found myself smiling at your gorgeous images, especially at the potluck party of life. What a great reminder of our existence. Each person bringing something distinct and the whole becoming richer because of it. You named also the important caution here that expansion needs direction or possibility can become ungrounded. Amélie, what would you add about choosing the right people, communities, or shared purpose as Jupiter moves through the 11th house?
What I love about Sue's exploration of the 11th house is how beautifully it completes the story of the journey through the 5th house. In the 5th house, Jupiter in Leo asks, how do I let my light shine? And in the 11th house, Pluto in Aquarius asks a complementary question. How does the light contribute to something greater than myself? I don't think these two perspectives are in conflict, like Sue said, together for a new future. I think together they reveal the deeper assignment of this Jupiter in Leo season, not me versus the collective, but how individual expression can become a meaningful contribution without losing its authenticity. And maybe this is the deeper wisdom of the Leo Aquarius axis. In the 5th house, you discover that you are a star. And in the 11th house, you recognize the constellation your light is part of.
Whew, that was a good one. I love that. You're a star and then you recognize your constellation. What a perfect analogy. Thank you, Amélie. And now we come full circle to the 12th house. Let's turn to Courtney Goldstein. Courtney Goldstein integrates evolutionary astrology, the Akashic records, and intuitive guidance to help people live with greater courage, self-love, and connection to their soul. She's passionate about making astrology practical and empowering for everyday life. Take it away, Courtney.
Let me start by saying I love you, and you're going through a beautiful passage of time. So you can think about Jupiter and Leo transiting the 12th house, and it's ready to rediscover your own inner light, right? Jupiter simply asking you, where are you ready to grow? And you can think about the 12th house as, imagine if there was already angels by your side, reminding of you of who you truly are. Here's the question. Are you going to get quiet enough to listen? Really think about that. You have a beautiful inner light within you, and you have to get quiet to hear it so you can connect to this inner light. So imagine if you didn't need any outside acknowledgement, and all you needed to do this year was come within and find this light within you. But let's think about Leo and needing attention and getting appreciation. And let's think about this. What does actually success mean to you? Why do you want the success, right? Any kind of success or being seen. This is a moment where you can close the gap between your physical life and your spiritual life and connect your soul to the outer world outside of you. But you have to find this peace within you. Really, it's a very important part. Like you have to find the inner light within you and love yourself because your soul knows you're worthy and you don't need any outside. You don't need outside people or outside information to tell you you're worthy. You are worthy. You don't have to become enough. You are enough. You're simply remembering it. Like you're here to take time and remember the light within. So you may have a Leo rising or you may have a Virgo rising, either way. So think about the Virgo as you're ascending to help and improve and be of service. And now think of the Leo ascendant is you're rising or ascending to shine, to create, and to be seen. Okay. Both are perfect and beautiful, by the way, but both become exhausting when it depends on someone outside of you giving you acknowledgement or having to need the approval, right? It gets exhausting. So this 12th house is saying, now is the time to go inward. to release no longer what no longer belongs to you, and to let go of needing permission to love yourself and to accept yourself. What would you do if no one was watching? If you weren't worried about being accepted? I think about like Vincent van Gogh, right? And imagine if he waited for anyone's approval to create his art, right? Like, so can you create your art without needing anyone's approval? So imagine if every morning you woke up and before you picked up your phone, before you did your to-do list, before you had to take care of anything or anyone, you spent even just a few minutes coming back into your light. Remember simply that there's a light within you. You are a spiritual being having a very, very, very human experience. And this is the time that the angels are here to help remind you. So every morning when the sun rises, can you come back to remembering this greater self and connect to it? Just imagine connecting to your light. And while you're connecting to this light, think about how you could forgive. Really, this is a great opportunity to forgive people. Forgive people that hurt you, forgive yourself for anywhere you are or what's going on in your life. Because when we hold on to any shame or guilt or hurt, it dims your light. Leo wants you to shine. So anything that's diminishing that is what we want to let go of. So imagine if you had had the same amount of compassion for yourself as you would for your own, like a child, right? Think about how you would have compassion if a child felt upset or guilt or shame. You would forgive them. You would say, okay, you're perfect and wonderful and amazing, and so are you. So this is the gift, right? So Jupiter is luck, it's positivity, 12th house is angels. So then imagine if all the right people are going to come into your life, all the right books, all the right opportunities, exactly when you need them. The universe always has a way of whispering, here's the right things for you if we're going to get quiet enough. So think about what you like, information that comes to you, write it down, take notes, come up with ideas. You don't necessarily have to use them right now. You can wait till the Jupiter goes over your ascendant, or you can use it. Just trust your instincts. But here, the 12th house also, we have to look at the dark side. Courtney loves the angels. I love the angels. I like talking about the 12th house and the divine and trusting in the universe, but it's also the house of drugs, alcohol. So imagine if you're overextending that was growing, suffering, excessive TV, right? Scrolling. So notice if you're trying to numb yourself in any way and come back and not have any judgment of it. Just notice to not get sucked into it. Come back to finding your own light, using your creativity, spending time in stillness. Think about stillness as it allows the inspiration, right? That's where we get inspiration from, is the quietness. We could get inspired. That's what artists always say, right? The greatest works comes when they're not striving. It comes in the silence. So get quiet enough to listen to the divine guidance. It becomes easier to hear. So you're going to reflect, you're going to retreat, you're going to do your soul's work, no matter where you are, right? You're going to fall in love with yourself, and you're going to try to forgive everybody. You're going to trust that you're already whole, and you're going to remember that Jupiter is the planet of belief. So here, whatever you believe is what you're going to receive. And so be careful with what you believe. So your belief really shapes what becomes available for you. So this transit is closing out a beautiful 12 years from you. And so that next year you could come into the world, out into society, or with whatever you're sharing with the world, with a little more confidence, a little more braveness, and a little more courage. The question is, can you get quiet enough to remember your light? And remember that there's always angels with you. I am so proud of you. A really great message and a good reminder for our mantra right now is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I wish you a beautiful passage of Jupiter going through your 12th house, and trust that there are always angels with you, really, but believe. I believe in you, and may you believe in yourself.
Courtney, what a tender and deeply affirming way to close our journey through the houses. You brought us back to the inner light beneath all the noise, to stillness, forgiveness, self-compassion, and the possibility that belief itself shapes what becomes available to us. I especially appreciated your reminder that Jupiter in the 12th is not only about retreat, but about returning from that retreat with more courage, confidence, and trust in ourselves. Sinem, Courtney spoke about getting quiet enough to hear what ordinary life may drown out. What would you add or expand for that invitation for someone experiencing Jupiter's transit through the 12th house?
Courtney, what stayed with me most was your invitation to become quiet enough to remember the light within. It made me think about the relationship between the 12th house and the 6th house. The 12th house gives us space to retreat, forgive, and reconnect with the soul. Jupiter may enlarge the need for that inner space, asking us to listen more deeply before returning to the demands of ordinary life. The 6th house brings us back to ordinary life, to our work, routines, responsibilities, and physical needs. These houses may seem very different, but they depend on each other. Without inner renewal, service can become depletion. Without a way to bring that renewal into daily practice, insight can remain abstract. Retreat, then, is not an escape. It is preparation for returning with the greater presence. Thank you, Courtney, for reminding us of that.
And thank you, Sinem, for reminding us also that retreat gives us renewal. So, as several of our cats have pointed out, none of these transits happen in a vacuum. Jupiter isn't just going into Leo by itself through the houses. The sky keeps moving, offering simultaneous and sometimes even contradictory or paradoxical invitations. So before we close, let's look at a few of the larger transits shaping how Jupiter in Leo may unfold. First, let's take a look at Jupiter, which is opposing Pluto in Aquarius right now, bringing questions of personal confidence, power, visibility, and collective change into direct conversation. I'd like to first invite Norma Jean to reflect on this for us.
The history of this Jupiter opposition to Pluto is that Jupiter is the fastest planet and Pluto is the slowest planet. And this aspect did happen once before in American history. That was in September of 1789. And that was the beginning of our country's official government. And the Constitution had been ratified, and the Congress was now in its business of establishing the financial future of the country. So one of the first acts was the act of registering and clearing vessels and securing the coastal trade and other purposes. And also the second act was establishing the Treasury Department. So this aspect of Jupiter and Pluto always deals with really big money. The following acts through the month of September of 1789 included the acts of collecting duties and imposing laws on the tonnage of shipping and vessels and the wares that and merchandise coming imported into the United States. Also, the Congress had to fund itself. So they had acts for compensating the members of Senate and House representatives in the United States, and also an act to explain and amend the act of registering and clearing the vessels for trade and other purposes. So some similarities are happening in this period. Thank you.
Indeed. I think the big money piece is a big one that's happening in the world. And maybe you've taken us way at the beginning of the founding of this country. Sula, are you going to bring us into the present moment or the future with Pluto in Aquarius opposing Jupiter in Leo?
Well, today I see the Jupiter and Pluto opposition as amplifying the personal Leo and societal Aquarius polarity, individualism versus the pressure that comes from powerful groups. People on an individual level may be feeling that oppressive Plutonian energy. I mean, like, wait a minute, things aren't fair right now. And it's not fair for some more than others. And some people are benefiting from political and societal changes that are rapidly happening right now, and some people feel annihilated by them. That's Pluto. The cliche is death and rebirth. And sometimes things just need to get worse before they get better. The phoenix does rise from the ashes, but when one has a Pluto transit, especially on a personal planet, it's just not pleasant. And I can tell you from personal experience, having lived near the LA fires, I mean, I cannot believe how much some of the devastated areas have grown in the past 18 months. Days after the fire, it looked like a hellscape. But today, the wildlife is returning. I've seen trees grow several feet in that short amount of time. So have faith. These are trials. Jupiter will always return to the balance of power. And it's fitting that at the time we're doing this recording, that the movie The Odyssey has just come out in theaters. You know, the clash of the Titans, the trials that Odysseus faces to return home to Ithaca and to a peaceful life seemed insurmountable, but they are worth it in the end.
Ah, thank you, Sula. And so nice to hear that the canyon has come back in such a big way. I remember when you were going through the fires, and I'm glad that your family made it out fairly safely. And our prayers for those who are still dealing with the aftermath of that. In addition to the opposition to Pluto, the lunar nodes, as several of our astrologers have told us, are changing signs. The karmic emphasis shifts from service and devotion in Virgo and Pisces to Leo and Aquarius questions of self-expression, belonging, leadership, community, technology, and future orientation. What do you see in that shift, Sue?
We're on the edge of the nodal axis changing. As of Sunday, July 26th, we have the North Node in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo for 18 months until March 26th, 2028. The lunar nodes, they transit in reverse, beginning at 29 degrees and stay at that degree now through the August 12th solar eclipse for over 2 months, past the equinox until October 9th. Jupiter in Leo will then conjunct the South Node. They're moving in opposite directions. Jupiter will be retrograde in December, and so therefore it's slowing down as the nodes keep progressing after they're slowed down with the eclipse. And that'll be November 11th to the 17th, to be exact, at 25 degrees Leo, despite the orb that it might be, just for those that might be interested. However, essentially, expansion makes for change. The North Node in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo instigate a duality of purpose, where community creates leadership and vice versa. Leo finds a new role to exhibit, recreating their identity, by displaying leadership in a community group network. We've brought this up several times, and it's the absolute validity, the truth. Aquarius, fundamental respect for individuality, teaches Leo's creative force to develop their ability of skills to support their personal drive of leadership that supports the whole. Their relationship revolves like a spinning gyro, where the heart of Leo opens to welcome every individual dignity as a sacred being. Equally with the Aquarian, allowing for different leaderships to shift and enhance the group's evolvement. Together, these nodal energies work to strengthen the welfare and connection through embracing the fullness of heart for one and for all.
I like that. One and all. Man, don't we need to include one and all in all of our things? Thank you, Sue. Andrew, you have a different kind of astrology that you practice, medieval, European, Hellenistic, and Arabic. What's your take on the nodes shifting signs?
I think of myself as a modern astrologer who's read a lot of ancient texts. And when I play with that and the nodes, one of the things that emerges for me is that the South Node in Leo functions as a reminder that uh, simply being a performer on stage is not actually enough. We've talked about how Leo represents the leader or the king or the ruler, and Aquarius kind of represents the people who are actually doing the work. And we see this changeover that the North Node says we actually need people who are experts and who know how to do the work to get more attention and more focus rather than the focus being on the leaders. I was talking with one of our other astrologers about this. On Wall Street, they talk about the sharks and the quants. The sharks are the salespeople who know how to pitch the sale and who largely operate on vibes, while the quants are the people who do the numeric calculations and try to understand at a fundamental level what's going on. And what we see is that the performers, the sharks, are going to be taking it on the hip and taking it on the cheek, whereas the quants, the people who understand the underlying fundamentals, who have the facts and figures at their command, are likely going to be much more successful in this environment than the people who are trying to do it on vibes alone. I think that's a good way of understanding the transit of the nodes into Aquarius and Leo is you have to know your stuff. You can't operate just on vibes alone.
Indeed. So don't put up a shingle that you're an astrologer after reading one book or watching a podcast. You're going to have to know your stuff. Jupiter begins its journey through Leo in a square to Chiron and later forms a trine before leaving the sign. Ishil, what might the arc from friction to flow, the square to the trine, tell us about Jupiter and Chiron's tango with the wound and its healing?
Jupiter's transit through Leo connects with Chiron, highlighting wounds around rejection, belonging, and self-worth. Jupiter amplifies these wounds, inviting growth. In early July, their contact encourages action despite feelings of rejection or vulnerability. These experiences can expand confidence and wisdom. Later, from November 2026 to early February 2027, Chiron retrograde shifts focus inward. We are invited to stay present with our wounds, recognize their source, and discover self-acceptance as the foundation of healing. This inner shift allows Jupiter's abundance to take root.
Yeah, really helpful, Ishil. I think indeed this Chiron Jupiter move really feels like the clouds over the sunlight that we have to deal with those before we can truly shine our light. And I live in a place where the clouds kind of sometimes take over our house. We're in the mountains. And then when the sun shines, the clouds start evaporating. So as we shine our light, I just love the way you brought that in for us, Ishil. Thank you. Well, friends, we've now traveled through all 12 houses. We've heard many different ways Jupiter and Leo may meet us in life and in each of our houses, and even how it's talking to some of the other planets. Jupiter carries the promise of growth, good fortune, and victory, but it may ask us to meet it halfway, which several of our astrologers have talked about, including Ishil, who just talked about it. As Christina reminded us in the Rig Veda, Brihaspati, Jupiter, goes where there is no path and creates one for others to follow. Where are you being asked to risk the unknown path, to hope for a future beyond fine, pretty good? Return to the questions with which we began. Where am I underestimating myself? Where do I need a victory? Where do I need to bet big on myself? Ask those questions within the house Jupiter and Leo is moving through in your chart, now that these wonderful astrologers have shared that with you. You know which area of life Jupiter and Leo is inviting you to traverse. Perhaps all it is waiting for is for you to step on the path and say, yes. Perhaps one path toward that yes is finding a community where you can practice, experiment, grow your own voice, and expand your capacity to lead. That's what we cultivate at CAT, the Kepler Astrologers Toastmasters. Here you can share your astrology, experiment with your ideas, strengthen your speaking skills, and practice within a supportive community of astrologers developing their own distinct voices. Who knows? You might be part of this panel when Jupiter moves into Virgo next year. We meet every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific for 60 to 75 minutes. Come as our guest for a few meetings and see whether CAT might be a place where your astrological voice can keep developing. You'll find the link right here and in the notes. In a moment, Amélie will offer a Jupiterian blessing for this transit. But before she does, I just want to take a moment to thank all of our panelists for your preparation, your generosity, your imagination, and the distinctive, wonderful perspectives you all brought. You've expanded our understanding of Jupiter's journey through Leo. Thank you. And thank you to everyone watching us for joining us. We'd love to hear where Jupiter in Leo is moving through your chart, which one of our speakers really resonated with you, what advice or question you're going to be sitting with, and what possibilities this panel opened for you. Please share all your reflections, or some of them, below in the comments. And now, Amélie, please take us into the blessing of Jupiter.
Let us be still. Eternal light, source of all wisdom, breathe within every living soul. Awaken within us the radiant heart. May the holy fire of Leo become the fire of noble courage, burning away all fear, yet preserving every spark of wonder. May the generous grace of Jupiter enlarge our vision beyond our certainty, deepen our compassion, and remind us that true abundance is not what we possess, but what we awaken in one another. May every gift entrusted to us become a blessing. May our words give courage. May our presence bring peace. May our work restore dignity. May our joy awaken hope. And may the light beyond all names walk before us, walk beside us, and shine quietly within us. May our hearts become suns. May our lives become blessings. May our light awaken light. So may it be.
So may it be. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Amélie. And we wish you all a fabulous Jupiter in Leo transit.